Good morning. My name is Douglas Griffin. This is my Sunday school class. I'm teaching from the book of Exodus. We started in Exodus chapter 1. We actually started in Genesis. We're in Exodus chapter 1, and now we're up to Exodus chapter 13. Well, we're actually going to start from the very end of Exodus chapter 12 and go into 13. God has executed the plan that he promised he'd execute. He has finally convinced Pharaoh to let the children of Israel go. So they're in the stages. It's the day that they're going to leave, and God's giving them their last instructions before they actually walk out the door. So he's explaining a few things to them. Let's see if I can bring that there. Now I have a forehead. It's very important to have a forehead. Okay. Here we go. Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. So we're just going to do the last part of Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. And again, the way he's brought them out is he unleashed 9 plagues as warning signs on the Egyptians. 9. Each time they interpreted it as, well, isn't that a coincidence? But the 10th one, which was judgment, on the 10th one, that is when it was black of night, and then the Bible says the avenging angel. But God came and judged all the firstborn. If you had the blood on your doorpost of the Lamb, then death passed over you, which is just God trying to teach us. If you have the blood of the Lamb on you, then spiritual death, eternal death will pass over you, right? All the Egyptians had the opportunity to do that. Moses announced to everybody. Okay, so Pharaoh said, okay, you can go. I'm done with you. Hey, Susie. Hey, Donna. So I'm done with you. You can go. And so God's giving you the last instructions before they actually leave Egypt and head toward the promised land. Now, interestingly enough, they're not going to head toward the promised land. They're going to head away from the promised land, which is what's going to confuse Pharaoh. He's going to say, oh, well, they're lost. I'm going to come after them. Really? After all you've been through, you're going to come after them? Yes. Okay. Wouldn't advise it. But anyway, so they're just about to leave. Final instructions. Exodus chapter 12, verse 43. And the Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover, right? The angel had passed over, and he wants them to celebrate the Passover. I want you to celebrate it. I don't want it to be an incident that happened. We should do this more often, because God has done miraculous things in our lives, and we should celebrate them and testify about them and talk about them more to remind ourselves of what God did. Because the next time we're in trouble, the next time something seems like it's going haywire, we get panicky and we forget the thing that God did. Like, you were in the situation 5 years ago, God, or 20 years ago, or 1 month ago. God rescued you. Why are you panicking? So God wants them to do this yearly so that you'll remember, so that when you get in a situation, you remember, see how God protected you? Trust me. Okay. So he's instituting the Passover as a feast, not just as a thing that happened, but it's going to be a week-long feast. Oh, sorry. So Exodus 12:43. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. These are the rules. No foreigner shall eat it, but every man's servant who is bought for money, when you have circumcised him, then he may eat it. So can no foreigner eat it? Not until they become circumcised and then part of the group. And so they have to buy into, it's not something that's to be done casually. You have to understand why you're doing it. There is a God. We trusted him that he would deliver us, and he passed over us, and he did deliver us. So do you believe there's a God? Okay, will you be circumcised as a sign that you do have a covenant with this God, and that he's got a covenant with you, and he's going to protect you? Okay, now you could take it because you understand what it's about. It would be like getting married, but you don't know what marriage is. Just come on up. Nah, just come on. Just get married. It's no big deal. What is it? Don't worry about it. So don't take this Passover unless you have committed to God, etc. So it doesn't mean no foreigner can ever eat it. This means no foreigner can eat it until they become circumcised, and then they're no longer foreigners. And okay, so when you circumcise them, then he made it. A sojourner and a hired servant shall not eat it. You have to, if that's their only uh, relationship to you, if they're part of the family, no problem. Okay, Exodus chapter 12. So a stranger, somebody who just wandered in, because then you're watering it down. It's about a people who have a covenant with God. And if anybody can just walk in and do it, then it's going to have less meaning to you. God's not upset, but you won't care as much. Okay, Exodus chapter 12, verse 46. In one house it shall be eaten. You shall not carry any of the flesh outside the house, nor shall you break in one of its bones. So don't take the lamb and break its bone, and do not, if you're eating it and you're inviting another family to eat it with you, eat it in that house. It's all about unity. It's just about unity. Unity of the body. So he's trying to teach unity. Don't take some and share it. Have it done in your house and say, see, we're all together. We're a family. And that has to be repeated over and over so that you understand that you're one unit. He's trying to teach a lesson. There are no books to read. We have our Bibles that we could just pick up anytime we want. Oh, let me read and study. No books. They don't have any books. So this has to become their book. Doing this over and over is the way that they're going to learn it. It's like teaching someone how to play basketball. You can either read the book on it, or you can just have them shoot baskets over and over like Stephen Curry, over and over, and that's how you're going to learn it. Teach someone to fix a car. Just do it over and over, and this is how you're going to learn it. So this is going to be your book. Do it this way over and over. This is how you're going to learn what unity is. This is how you're going to learn what devotion is and what a covenant is. Okay, Exodus chapter 12, verse 47. All the congregation of Israel shall keep it. So everybody has to do it. And when a stranger dwells with you and wants to keep the Passover to the Lord, then let all his males be circumcised. So you don't force them. But if somebody I want part of that. I want that God that you serve. I see your devotion. I see your unity. I see your faith. I want part of that. In the old days, that's how people joined the faith. They saw it on you. You didn't have to wear a cross. You have to put up bumper stickers. They actually saw your devotion. They saw your unity. They saw your faith. And they said, I want part of that. Okay, so if they want to keep the Passover, then let all the males be circumcised. Let them come near and keep it, and he shall be as a native of the land. For no uncircumcised person shall eat it. One law shall be for the native born, for the stranger who dwells with you. So one law shall be for the native born, and another, it should say, and for the stranger who dwells with you. So you eat your food, we're going to eat our food. If they want to join in, then they have to join in, and they have to buy in and believe. Okay. Thus, I think this is verse 50, Exodus chapter 12, 50. Thus all the children of Israel did, as the Lord commanded Moses and Aaron, so they did. And it came to pass on that very same day that the Lord brought the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt according to their armies. Hey, happy September 20th. Does it say September 25th? Oh, and I put October. Bless my heart. Okay, September 25th. Thank you, Jan. Okay, so I'm a week ahead. Bless my heart. So uh, that this is the day. So these are your last instruction, and we're about to leave. We're about to leave. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Consecrate to me." Okay, so now we're doing the law of the firstborn. The law of the firstborn. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Consecrate to me all the firstborn. Whatever opens the womb among the children of Israel, both of man and beast, it is mine." So you're going to consecrate something when you're totally dedicated to me. There's two forms of consecration. There's the sacrifice, and then there's the dedicated life. There's the living sacrifice. Sacrifice and the living sacrifice. Sacrifice is dead. The living sacrifice is alive. but has consecrated itself. So he's saying, whatever opens the room among the children of Israel, both man and beast, your firstborn belongs to me. So so he introduces this in Exodus chapter 13, verse 1 and 2. Then he says, uh, then he switches subjects to the Feast of the Unleavened Bread because he needs you to understand about sin because of what he's about to introduce. So I'm going to introduce you to the concept of the law of the firstborn, but first you have to get this sin concept in your mind, and then the law of the firstborn will make sense to you. So in Exodus chapter 13, verse 3, he changes the subject back to unleavened bread. Leaven represents sin. Egypt introduced leaven to the children of Israel, the idea of leaven. And so he says, get rid of the leaven, because after all that Egypt stuff, Egypt now represents the world, represents sin. And for 7 days, no leaven in your bread, so you understand the concept of sin and removal of sin. Okay, so Exodus chapter 13, verse 3. And Moses said to the people, remember this day in which you went out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage, for by strength of hand the Lord brought you out of this place. So he had to do something big, he says. It wasn't, you didn't have to sneak out. God did something huge, and that's how. So we don't forget the day he delivered you. No leavened bread shall be eaten. On this day you're going out in the month of Abib, which is March. It shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites and the Hittites and the Amorites and the Hivites and the Jebusites, when you finally get to the promised land, back to Canaan, which has these 5 major tribes, Canaanite tribes, which he swore to your fathers to give to you, a land flowing with milk and honey, that you shall keep the service in that month, which they did. When Joshua finally led them 40 years later across the Jordan River into Canaan, they stopped and they said it was exactly March when he let them in, the month of Abib, and they celebrated it. So I can already see what you're going to do, and I'm telling you what you're going to do. That's the good thing about God. I see it. I'm telling you something that I see happening. I'm not guessing and hoping. So you're going to celebrate it when I see you are going through. You're going to celebrate it for 7 days. This is verse 6. You shall eat unleavened bread. And on the 7th day, there shall be a feast to the Lord. Unleavened bread shall be eaten 7 days. No leavened bread shall be seen among you, because I need this to get in your head. The idea of there's leavened bread and unleavened bread. There's a sinless life and there's life full of sin. And I just want you this to get in your minds, because I'm trying to teach you a lesson. Okay. No leavened bread shall be seen among you. No leaven, nor shall leaven be seen among you in all your quarters. Like, don't hide it somewhere. Clean it out, because that's what we do. I know people, I'm quitting cigarettes, but I'm going to hide a pack in the toilet top or something. He's not. Clean the whole thing. That's the only way you got to just totally, whatever the thing you're trying to get rid of, you got to get rid of it all the way. Okay. And you shall tell your son in that day, saying, this is done because of what the Lord did for me when I came out of Egypt. This is why I'm doing this, so to remind you. Again, this is their book. These actions are their book. They don't have books. So it's the repeated action where they're learning from, like we might learn from a book. They're learning from the repeated action done over and over and over. That's how I'm going to teach you, God is saying. Exodus chapter 13, verse 9. So we're talking about the hand and the forehead. The hand and the forehead, very interesting. It shall be as a sign to you on your hand and as a memorial between your eyes, that the Lord's law may be in your mouth. For with a strong hand the Lord has brought you out of Egypt. Now, it'll be a sign to you in your hand and a memorial between your eyes, on your forehead, right? On your hand, on your forehead, so that the Lord's law may be in your mouth. Was God expecting them to put the Bible in their mouth? Was God expecting them to take the 10 Commandments and those tablets and put them in their mouth? No. This is figurative language. It's the same thing with the hand and the eyes. He wasn't really expecting them to carry the 10 Commandments around in their hand and try to do their work, or that it should be between their eyes. This is figurative language, and I just want to emphasize that, because he's saying whenever you do something, I want you to be doing my law. Whenever you're looking somewhere, whenever you're thinking, I want you to be thinking about my law. I want it to come out of your mouth, right? But not literally Bibles coming out of your mouth, right? So when we talk about the hand and the foreheads, these are imageries of people doing things and seeing or thinking about God, and God is controlling you because what you look at is what you're going to do, what you're doing with your hands. That reflects who you are, what you say, right? Out of the fruit of the mouth, the heart speaks, or some fruit of the heart, the mouth speaks. The abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And so this is giving away who you really are, what we see you do, what you're thinking about, what you're saying. Okay, so I want this law to be in your hands, but not literally. And you see why this is important. Deuteronomy 6, verses 6 through 9. And these words, let me add a semicolon there so that I'll be happy. And these words which I command you today shall be in your heart. Now, are we supposed to cut somebody's heart open and stick the Bible in it? No. These words shall be in your heart. You shall teach them diligently to the children. You shall talk of them when you sit in your house, when you walk by the way, when you lie down. If you're sitting, if you're walking, if you're lying down, and when you rise up, you shall bind them as a sign on your hand. Are you literally supposed to put the Bible on your hand and let it hang from? No. Just like you weren't supposed to literally cut open your heart, your chest, and put it sticking in your heart. You shall bind them as a sign in your hand, just meaning figuratively, whatever you're doing, let it be what I ask you to do. Okay, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. That's what it's going to be like. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and of your gates. So whenever you go into your house or out of your house. But were they literally supposed to write them? Like, were they going to take a marker and write them? No, that's like they weren't supposed to write them on your heart. Write these on your heart. With a marker? No. But so this symbol, it's figurative, going in and out, right? Wherever you go, in and out. I just want these words that I'm saying it to always be in your mind, to be what you do, what you say, when you go in your house, out of your house, be thinking about these things. Deuteronomy chapter 11, verse 18. Therefore you shall lay up these words of mine in your heart and in your soul, and to bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. Hand in eyes, hand in eyes, hand in eyes. This will be important in just a minute. Proverbs 3:3. Let not mercy and truth forsake you. Bind them around your neck. Write them on the tablet of your heart. Really, is it supposed to be you carry a Bible at a big chain around your neck? No. Okay. Keep getting that wrong. No. So, Proverbs 6:20. My son, keep your father's command and do not forsake the law of your mother. Bind them continually on your heart. Tie them around your neck. And the image there is like they would put a thing around their cow or their mule, right, and guide it where it should go. So bind it around your neck so like God can pull you where you need to be going. When you roam, they will lead you. When you sleep, they will keep you. When you're awake, they will speak to you. The Bible's not actually going to, hello, wake up. It's not Siri. The Bible's not Siri. It's not going to just talk to you. But if you're always thinking about it, if you're always doing it, yeah, these words will talk to you in your mind. Okay. Revelation chapter 7, verse 2 through 3. I skipped way to Revelation. Then I saw another angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the four angels to whom it was granted to harm the earth and the sea, saying, do not harm the earth, the sea, or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of God on their foreheads. Now, they're using the same language. Is there really going to actually be a mark on someone's forehead? No. He's saying, I've got people who are going to be following me, and wait till I have really, where they are thinking about me, they're following me, then you can do these things because these people will know where to go and how to sidestep all this danger because my mark is on their foreheads, but not like there's going to be a big G on their forehead. Okay, Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. Then I looked and behold a lamb standing in Mount Zion. An actual lamb? Or was this Jesus? And with him, 144,000 having his father's name written on their foreheads. So is Jehovah written across their forehead or branded? Or he's just saying These are people who are following me. They're following me. They think about me. Just like, because there's no, for the writer of Revelation, there's no difference between the New Testament and the Old Testament. The New Testament hasn't been written yet. Uh, it's so the language they use, write it on your foreheads, write it on your hands, write it on your heart, bind it around your neck. Their name will be written on my forehead. It's the same language of just they will be focused on me. I saw, so there's not literally a lamb and then 144,000 people who have a big G or Jehovah written across their heads, standing on a hill. It's figurative language. Okay, Numbers chapter 15, verse 38. Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them to make tassels. Now, this is specific. Speak to the children of Israel and tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout their generations. So they had a prayer shawl. They would make those tassels on it. You've seen them. Beautiful, right? White with blue. And to put a blue thread in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel that you may look upon it and remember all the commandments of the Lord and to do them. So this will remind you. So when you see the blue and the white on your prayer shawls and all on the corners of your garment, it'll remind you, yes, I'm supposed to be doing what God told me to do. It'll just remind you. Why? Because you don't literally have the Bible dangling. You don't need the tassels if the Bible's hanging from your hand and your forehead and you got a big Bible around your neck and you stuck one in your heart. You don't need the tassels to remind you, because right now you're looking crazy because you have stuff sticking out of you. So the tassels are there because all the other language is figurative. This is literal. It says that you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and your eyes are inclined. Your eyes are inclined to follow after that, right? So that's why I want my word between your eyes, not literally, right? But if you're following me instead of the harlotry, then that's good. So these tassels will remind you. Well, Jesus had a comment about that in Matthew chapter 23, verse 5. He says, talking about the Pharisees who have these big tassels and all that stuff, but all their works they do to be seen of men. So he says, they make their phylacteries broad. Phylacteries, their tassels and all that, broad. Look at all, see how much blue and white I have, and enlarge the borders of their garments so that they're just impressive. He says, they're not really following me. Not following me. They're just making their tassels big. And it's like somebody who, I have a big old Bible. That doesn't mean you're a bigger Christian than anybody else. I have a huge cross than in fact, it's 5 feet long, so I'm a better Christian than you. No, Jesus said they're not, they're hypocrites, just enlarging. It was just supposed to be a simple reminder, but making it bigger doesn't mean you do more. Okay, but that's the one literal thing. He says actually make garments. The other stuff is just figurative language. Okay, so back to Exodus chapter 13. So he says, I want it on your hands and on your foreheads. He says, you shall therefore keep this ordinance in its season from year to year. This is Exodus chapter 13, verse 10. Yes, know the word of God by heart, Rodney. Okay, so right, so that's Exodus chapter 13, and then you do this all the time. If you're always saying it, always thinking about it, it's always in your heart, right? When you're good. Now, the law of the firstborn. When get the law of the firstborn, which is the title of this. Exodus chapter 13, verse 11. It says, and it shall be when the Lord brings you into the land of Canaanites, once you get there, as he swore to you and your fathers and gives it to you, that you shall set apart to the Lord all that open the womb. Everybody. So this is a repeat of what he said in the first verse. Now he's getting back to it. He just had the first, let me explain sin again and the concept of getting out that leaven and that you're always doing this. Now, let me get back to the law of the firstborn. Okay. It should be when the Lord brings you into the land of the Canaanites, as he swore to you and your fathers, and he gives it to you, that you shall set apart to the Lord all that open the womb. That is every firstborn that comes out of from an animal that you have, and the male shall be the Lord. So everybody, if anybody that can give birth, if you come out of a womb, I want the firstborn. Now, but every firstborn of a donkey, you have to redeem with the lamb. Now he's setting a difference between the clean and the unclean. So he says, all that open the womb, That is every firstborn that comes from an animal. So he says, let me do with the animal first. Because he mentioned humans and animals. But he said, like, first, let me just deal with the animals. I want to get this concept to you. So every firstborn that comes from an animal which you have, the male should be the Lord. But every firstborn of a donkey you shall redeem with a lamb. And if you will not redeem it, you have to break its neck. I don't want you to keep it around if you haven't redeemed it, because you have to understand the concept of something being unclean that must be redeemed. Don't keep around stuff that's not redeemed. If you're not going to redeem it, then you have to kill it. But you can redeem it, right? Because it's unclean. And they have a difference between the clean animals and the unclean on purpose. God is trying to explain the unblemished lamb so that we understand the concept ultimately of the Messiah showing up, and he's unblemished. We're all the donkey that is unclean. That's all of us. We need redemption. So there's the clean, which can be a lamb or goat, right? That's unblemished. And then there's the unclean, the donkey. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 17, and everybody had a donkey. Everybody had a donkey. In Exodus chapter 20, verse 17, you shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, nor anything that is your neighbor's. Your neighbor's going to have a donkey. I know he's going to have one, because that's what you use to pull your carts. That's what you use to carry your stuff. You ride on it sometimes. It's just the domestic animal that everybody has. It is unclean. Don't covet it. Leviticus chapter 1, verse 2. Speak to the children of Israel and say to them, when any one of you brings an offering to the Lord, you shall bring your offering of the livestock. So these are the clean. This is what's clean. You can bring your offering to the Lord of the livestock, of the herd and of the flock, cattle, sheep, goats. You can bring those offerings. That's it. These are things that God will consider clean that you can bring to the Lord. And so they would slaughter an ox, right? A lamb or a goat. These are things you can bring to the Lord. Leviticus chapter 22, verse 19. And you shall offer of your own free will a male without blemish from the cattle, from the sheep, or from the goats. That's Leviticus 22:19. Free. You can add, but you find the one that has no blemish, because I want you to understand the concept of something having to be without blemish, having to be sinless. Remember, we talked all about the leaven and the sin of the leaven and not having leaven. Now you need to understand the concept over and over that something needs to be sinless in order to redeem someone else, something else. The Pharisees thought they could keep the law. Remember, the guy came to Jesus in the middle of the night and said, I've kept the whole law, so I must be saved. And he says, oh, really? Sell all that you have and give it to the poor. Well, so then Jesus lists the 10 Commandments, and he stops. I think he goes 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, skips 10, then goes 1, 2, 3, 4. And the guy's thinking, what was 10? What was 10? Oh, thou shalt not covet. Don't covet your neighbor's wife. Don't covet anything that belongs to your neighbors. He says, Jesus is like, do you really keep the 10 Commandments? Without saying the covet one. That's just the one he didn't say. But the guy's thinking, he skipped 10. He skipped the covet one about coveting other people's stuff. Okay, then sell everything you have, give to the poor. If you don't covet, if you don't, oh, I can't do that. I know, because you're a sinner. So you can't be perfect. You have to understand the concept that the only thing that can redeem something else has to be something that's totally sinless. So he's trying to teach them these animals, find the unblemished one, they can be used to sacrifice. Their blood can be shed, and unblemished blood can be shed to redeem someone else. Okay, Leviticus chapter 27, 27. Chapter 27, verse 27. If it is an unclean animal, then he shall redeem it according to your valuation, and it shall add 1/5 to it, or if it's not redeemed, then it shall be sold according to your valuation. So there's different ways to redeem it. With money, a price has to be paid to redeem it, and so you can value it, but it has to be redeemed somewhere if it's unclean, because he's trying to, there's the unblemished lamb, and then the rest of us are unclean. Please understand these two concepts. And when Jesus showed up, he was trying to explain, you must be born again. I've had you do these things over and over so that you would understand these concepts of the perfect lamb, and the rest of us are unclean. Numbers 18, verse 15 says, everything that first opens the womb of all flesh, which they bring to the Lord, whether man or beast, shall be yours. So I'm talking about man or beast, whether it's animals or man. The firstborn this is the law of the firstborn belongs to the Lord. He says, nevertheless, the firstborn of man you shall surely redeem, and the firstborn of unclean animals you shall redeem. This is Numbers chapter 18, verse 15. So he's saying, man, you need redemption. You're unclean. You're in the same category as the unclean. So all the unclean animals have to be redeemed. They have to be bought with the price. He gives the price for the unclean animals early up there. But they must be bought with a price. Some price has to be paid in order for you to be redeemed, right? But the perfect unblemished lamb can be used. Its blood can be shed to redeem. And do this year by year, and you'll finally get it. Hopefully. Exodus chapter 13, second part of verse 13 says, and all the firstborn of man among your sons you shall redeem. So you got to redeem them. This is not a choice. We need redemption. So how does the redemption happen? How do we get redeemed? Okay, Exodus 6:6, just backing up. He first explains what redemption is. So before they'd ever gotten freed from Egypt, he says, here's what I'm going to do for you. Exodus 6:6. Therefore say to the children of Israel, this is God talking to Moses, I am the Lord. So first of all, you know who I am. I will bring you out from under the burdens of the Egyptians. So that's a type of sin. I will rescue you from their bondage. So it's weighing heavy on you. I'm going to rescue and bring you out, and I will redeem you with an outstretched arm with great judgments. I will judge the sin, but my blood will be over you, and I will redeem you and bring you out. And when you'll cross the Red Sea, that's be a type of baptism, right? So you're understanding you are now free from all that bondage. I'm bringing you out from under the bondage of the Egyptians. So that's what redemption is. You're no longer a slave to all of that, right? So he's trying to get this concept in their heads. Do this every year and you'll get it. Pass it down to your children. Numbers chapter 3, verse 44, just giving these examples because he's explaining what he says, I'm going to redeem you. Numbers chapter 3, verse 44. This is after they're already in the wilderness, but he's still explaining this concept to you. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, take the Levites instead of all the firstborn born among the children of Israel, and the livestock of the Levites instead of their livestock, and the Levites shall be mine. So at first he said, the firstborn in every household, who now represents the household, shall be mine, right? I want you, right? You concentrate you to the Lord. Now the animals, when he says the firstborn shall be mine, they have to be sacrificed. But the unclean animal have to be redeemed. He says the firstborn in every household are mine. They're not sacrificed. They become a living sacrifice. I want your life thoroughly, but it can't happen unless you're redeemed. So I want the firstborn from every household. I want that entire household, as a matter of fact. And that's who the firstborn stands for. You know, like Jesus was the firstborn of many brethren. The firstborn implies there's going to be a secondborn, a thirdborn, a fourthborn. So the firstborn stands in for everybody. I want that whole household, but you've got to be redeemed. Who's going to redeem you? So right here he says, take the Levites instead of the firstborn from among the children of Israel. So the concept is just like the lamb, the blood of the lamb has to. I want the firstborn of the mule, of the donkey, but they've got to be redeemed. Now I can have them. So now take the Levites instead of the firstborn, and the Levites are the one going to redeem the unclean from each household. The Levites shall be mine. I am the Lord. Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 5. Then the priests, the sons of Levi, shall come near, for the Lord your God has chosen them to minister to him and to bless in the name of the Lord by their word. Every controversy and every assault shall be settled. So these are the people, just like I'm using the lamb to redeem the unclean donkey, I'm going to use the Levites to act as ministers in my house to bring about redemption, right? They'll carry out the sacrifice, they'll sacrifice the lamb, and that's how the unclean from every household will get their redemption. In Numbers chapter 3, verse 46. And for the redemption of the 273 of the firstborn of the children of Israel. He'd had them count them. How many firstborn, how many different families are there? 273 at that point, households. And each household, who knows how many there were in the household? 10, 100, So for those of the 73 of the firstborn of the children of Israel who are more than the number of the Levites, you shall take 5 shekels for each one individually. You shall take them in the currency of the shekel of the sanctuary, the shekel of 20 gerahs, and you shall give the money with which the excess number of them is redeemed to Aaron and his sons. So he says they must be bought with a price. A price has to be paid for them. And at this point, he's talking about also money being paid. There's a price that has to be paid to purchase their salvation, to purchase their redemption. So you can redeem them. Now, David says something interesting later. So we know that he also instituted shedding the blood of the lamb, right? But a price must be paid. The blood of the lamb will help redeem them and make atonement for their sin. In Psalm chapter 49, verse 7, David says, those who trust in their wealth, though, and boast in the multitude of their riches, it's like, well, I got a whole bunch of money, so I'm just totally redeemed. Money's I have 5 shekels? That's not, every time I sin, I get paid 5 shekels. It says, none of them can by any means redeem his brother. You're not rich enough. You can't redeem your brother. Your riches won't do it. Nor give to God a ransom for him. And that word ransom, we've heard that, Jesus paid he was the ransom. For the redemption of their souls is costly, and it shall cease forever. Once they're redeemed, there's a price that's going to be paid, but it's going to be a great cost. So even though I'm doing this 5 shekels thing every time you sin, and there's a great cost that's going to be ultimately paid to redeem your soul. And then it will cease forever once that price is paid. And then in Psalm 49:15, it says, but God will redeem my soul from the power of the grave, for he shall receive me. So there is a redemption, just like you were redeemed for Egypt. He wants you to think spiritually and knowing death is coming, but there's redemption for that. For that price to be paid, that's a great price, must be paid. In Exodus chapter 21, verse 32, he talks about slaves and how to redeem people who are slaves. So there are the sons, the firstborn sons, 5 shekels. But if you are a slave, the price is costlier. And so in Exodus chapter 21, verse 32, if the ox gores a male or female servant, so one of your ox kills them, he shall give to their master 30 shekels of silver, and the ox shall be stoned. So that's the price. That slave costs 30 shekels of silver. So there's a different price for the slave than just the firstborn son, the firstborn 5 shekels every time you sin. 30 pieces of silver, 30 shekels of silver is the price to be paid for a slave. Now you know what happened in Matthew chapter 26. Well, how would you know that? Like you have the Bible memorized like that? Okay, but you know where I'm going with this. Matthew 14, I'm sorry. Matthew 26, verse 14 says, then one of the 12, called Judas Iscariot, went to the chief priests and said, what are you willing to give me to deliver him to you? And they counted out to him 30 pieces of silver, the price of a slave. God had said, here's how much, when someone is trapped in slavery, a slave to sin, you were slaves in Egypt, and I redeemed you, and now the price for someone who's a slave is 30 pieces of silver. Well, what do you take for Jesus? 30 pieces of silver? Okay, so from that time, he saw an opportunity to betray him. And so that's so there's a monetary price, but it's just symbolic of the cost that has to be paid. When David said, you can't redeem your brother, really. You can't, because you are a sinner. You're the unclean animal. It's going to take an unblemished lamb to come in and redeem that unclean animal, right? A clean one, unblemished, redeem it, and you can't really pay that price. Symbolically, the 30 pieces of silver stands for our slavery. He became a slave for us, right? He took on our price, and symbolically, when they said 30 pieces of silver, and they weren't doing this, they didn't think, oh, let's fulfill scripture and we get our names written in the Bible. But God knows what they're going to do. They're going to say 30 pieces of silver. So he tells them 700 years in advance, 30 pieces of silver is a cost for redemption for a slave. We were slaves to sin. Jesus paid that price, but he also paid it with his blood and with his life, right, to redeem us from sin. So God through Moses is setting up this law way early, as soon as you come out of Egypt. He says, I want you to remember the day you came out of Egypt and celebrate it, because that's me bringing you out of sin, bringing you out of slavery to sin. That's me redeeming you. When you walk through the water and come out the other side, that baptism, that's symbolic of you being dead and then brought back to life. That water is like your death behind you. Egypt can't get you anymore. Those Egyptians that were after, they can't get you anymore. You're now separate from that. And so it's like that old life you had is dead back in Egypt. Don't go back to it. Because you can hop in a dead body, I guess, if you want to, but don't go back to it. You're dead to all of that now, and the price has been paid. I'm redeeming you. So I want you to do this every year so you can get this in your mind. This is the day I came out of Egypt. This is the day I was redeemed. Remind yourself, I'm redeemed. As Christians, we need to remind ourselves, I'm redeemed, I'm redeemed, I'm redeemed. Sin doesn't have power over me. I don't need to give into this or give into that. I don't have to. That's dead. That's the Egyptian life. That's behind me. Every time I take communion, every time I think of the blood of Jesus, when it's on my hands and in my forehead, not literally in your hands or your forehead, that's to remind me when what I'm doing is that now I've got this new life on the other side of the Jordan, this new life that's waiting for me, and that old life is dead. So God's saying to Moses, do this every year so you get the concept down that you're dead to it, because it's always a choice. You're dead to it, but you can always run back to Egypt if you want. But if you remind yourself, no, I was redeemed from that. I was redeemed from that. Then we don't have to go back to Egypt. Okay, Exodus chapter 13, verse 14. So it shall be, and this I'm almost done. When your son asks you in time to come, saying, "What is this? Like, why are we doing this, eating this unleavened bread and celebrating this feast?" That you shall say to him, "By strength of hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt and out of the house of bondage." We're not we're not in bondage anymore. That death, that slavery is done. The price was paid. And it came to pass, when Pharaoh was stubborn about letting us go, that the Lord killed all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both the firstborn of man and the firstborn of beast. Therefore I sacrifice to the Lord all males that open the womb, but all the firstborns of my son I redeem. So the idea is we get redemption. That's why we sacrifice. That's why he's telling you, I sacrifice this lamb because it's symbolic of my redemption, of my being brought out of Egypt. And the firstborn sons, this is my redemption. Because I'm unclean, just like that donkey's unclean. That's why God doesn't have clean and unclean animal, because I like those animals more than I like those. It's a lesson. These are the clean ones, these are unclean ones. You're the donkey. You're the donkey. You're unclean, and you need the unblemished lamb to redeem you. And so this is a reminder of that this blood of the lamb is going to redeem me. He wants me to do this every year. So when the actual lamb shows up and says, "Hey, I'm here now. I'm the Lamb of God," and when John the Baptist says, "Oh, there's the Lamb of God. He's going to redeem us," everybody will go, "Oh, okay, now it all makes sense. We've been doing this for 1,000 years, and now the actual Lamb has shown up who's going to redeem all of us." Okay, in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 24, because they were doing this over and over and over, right? Like every day you got to go shed some blood. Once a year, the high priests are going to go all the way into the Holy of Holies, and they're going to shed the blood of the Lamb to redeem all the sons. In Hebrews chapter 9, verse 24, just for Christ has not entered the holy places made with hands. So the priests, the Levites, they're going into the regular building. That's not the building that Christ went into when he shed his blood, which are copies of the truth. But he went into heaven itself, now to appear in the presence of God for us. Not that he should offer himself often, as the high priest enters the most holy place every year with blood of another, right? He's taking the blood of another, meaning blood of the lamb. That's not the high priest's blood. The high priest is not shedding his blood. He's taking the blood of the lamb. Huh? The goats and the lamb, the goats, the ox, all of that, that blood is not his blood. He says they go in every year. Jesus didn't have to do this often. He just did it once. He then would have had to suffer, verse 26, often since the foundation of the world, but now once. So if he was just like the high priest, he'd have to go in every year. But now once, at the end of the ages, he has appeared to put away sin by the sacrifice of himself. His blood. He's the unblemished lamb. He's that God was using to teach them year by year by year. There's the unblemished lamb who dies for the unclean donkey, which is us, and that blood is shed. And so now he has done it once, doesn't have to do it every year. His blood has has paid the price for all sin. Sin will not be the thing that keeps us out of heaven. It will be whether we've accepted it or not. Because remember, the foreigner, the stranger, he says earlier in this chapter, don't take the Passover unless you have been circumcised, unless you've committed. That's your way in. So all who commit and say, yes, I, God has circumcised my heart, and that's a sign of my covenant with him. Now you're covered by the blood. So I'm going to read this last verse. In Exodus chapter 13, verse 16, it says, and it shall be a sign on your hand and as frontlets between your eyes. So the hand and the forehead, hand and the forehead. For by strength of hand, the Lord brought us out of Egypt. Okay, so not literally going to be a Bible that you're supposed to carry on your hand and on your forehead. Now, I'm only mentioning this because in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16, it says, oh, I'm so mad. Okay. It says that because when they talk about the beast, so now I've got to type it in because I cut it off. I'm so stupid. Revelation 13. And I want to give this verse. Let me say the New King James Version. New King James Version. By the way, that's the version I read. Okay. New King James Revelation 13, verse 16. It says, he causes all, both great and small. It's talking about the false prophet, the beast. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their hand or on their foreheads. I'm just mentioning that all throughout Scripture, it was always figurative. God wants his mark on our hands. It's a sign on our hands. It's memorial on our foreheads. But never literally was he expecting people to write the entire Bible on their foreheads or on their hands. In Revelation chapter 13, verse 16, which just by coincidence in Exodus 13:16 and Revelation 13:16, it's just the same verse. He says the same thing, that those who are following the false prophet, his mark is on their hand and in their forehead. And we've taught it's going to be a literal mark, a tattoo, but I'm not sure. It's very possible that John, who's read the Old Testament because the New Testament had not been written yet and was not published, and widely distributed yet, they didn't have printing presses, that he's using the same language that he'd grown up with. God's mark is supposed to be on our hands and on our foreheads, but not literally. And he says his mark, this false prophet, is going to be in their hands and in their foreheads. And everything that they do, everything that they think is going to be influenced by the devil. I just don't know that it's a literal mark suddenly. I don't know that suddenly it literally is going to be something. Oh, don't take the mark of the beast. That's the mark. All throughout the Bible, it was just figurative. The whole point is they're doing and saying and thinking everything that whatever their God tells them to do. And that's what our God is. We're doing what he wants. We're thinking. We're looking where he wants us to look. And he's saying, I think that they're saying those followers are going to be, his mark going to be in their hands and their foreheads. It's going to be his mark in contrast to God's. His mark. They're going to be doing his will. Their thoughts are going to be exactly his. I just don't. I feel like it didn't suddenly change to a tattoo. I feel like it's the same language that they have all throughout the Bible, because I read you like 15 different verses talking about in your heart, in your neck, on your forehead, between your eyes, on your hand, verse after verse after verse, and it always meant figuratively. And I think this is also figuratively. And so people are so afraid of taking a mark, but when they need to be afraid of doing what the devil wants them to do and thinking like the devil, because that's going to be the problem more than the mark. The mark won't send you to hell as much as actually doing and speaking the words of the devil and thinking like him and doing his bidding. You know, I just thought that was interesting. Just pointing that out. Okay, so I'm ending the day. We've talked about the law of the firstborn, the law of the unleavened bread, and and the law of God being in your heart, in your hands, everything you do, everything you think, that you're saying this over and over and over so that the redemption will have its effect. Because he says, I can take you out of Egypt, but if this law is not continually coming out of your mouth, it's not written in your heart, then Egypt's still in you. This is how I cleanse you with the washing of the water of the word, the Bible says. Egypt is still going to be in you unless this is a daily thing, unless it's a yearly thing, unless it's something that you're always trying to do is worth. So that it says when you lay down, you'll think of it. When you rise up, when you sit, when you walk, this God wants it to be this continual thing in our lives. In our lives. Okay, I'm going to stop there. Thank you so much for listening in. I'm going to change the date from October 1st to September 25th. And on Wednesday, just remind you, those of you listening on Wednesdays, that the actual recording is going to happen in the morning at 10 or 11. But it's going to be available on my Facebook page all day. So please watch it, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, whatever day you have a chance. Okay, thank you so much, and God bless.